Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And I'm laughing at myself because whenever I'm about to hit record, I try to put a smile on my face and I'm wondering if when I hit record I am hitting record before I smile. Anyway, I feel awkward, so whatever. Today, I want to talk about the importance of staying the course in recovery and the dangers of abandoning recovery tools. So, I'm thinking about this because it's been crossing my mind, which is odd because I have not been doing much of this stuff that is working for, I think it's been a month. So for me to start already be thinking, oh, well, I'm feeling better, so maybe I can wean off of my psychiatrist or, it's nonsense. So I wanted to talk about the importance of not weaning off these different things that make us feel better when we're in recovery. So this applies to stroke recovery, vestibular therapy, sobriety, all of these things. It is important for me not to abandon the tools that are aiding my recovery, especially when they start making me feel better. So this applies when you're dealing with recovery from alcoholism in a way that you may be going to sobriety meetings and you're going consistently and you're feeling really good. You're working the steps of the program, calling your sponsor, and you're like, things are going my way. So you back off a little bit. It's like when things start working, the tools that are helping us get there become to be a nuisance or something. They begin to feel like they're taking too much of our time because all of our time is so valuable now because we're doing so well. And then managing what I've been managing with vestibular disorders. So yesterday I went for a walk with my dog. I didn't share this because I recorded early yesterday. But I went for a walk with Autumn, the Weimaraner, and I was doing these exercises that she gave me, which is I walk. When I walk, I need to look at a large thing in the distance so that I don't really, I'm not focusing all the movement around me. And I need the thing in the distance to be large so that I'm not really getting that change in perspective as it gets closer to me. So when I look at this thing in the distance, I'm supposed to move my head, keep my eye on it and move my head up and down for 10 seconds and then move my head from left to right for 10 seconds. And so I've been doing really well, and then I decided, well, I'm just going to do the scanning exercise that I do in a room while I'm walking. I decided, I'm doing so great. Maybe I'm not doing enough. Maybe I need to push myself a bit further. Well, I did that, and my symptoms went to a 10, and I couldn't walk home. I had to stand on the sidewalk with my dog for 10 minutes. We did some training exercises with the dog, dog training. We practiced taking one step at a time and stepping backward and turning around and her staying at my heel. So, right just in the middle of the sidewalk, in the middle of nowhere, we just stood there for like 10 minutes because I couldn't walk. I was afraid I was going to fall over. So, this is an example of me abandoning my professionally customized recovery plan that was given to me by the vestibular therapist and thinking that I could do it on my own. And that just was not the case. So I came clean today and I told her what I did, and she knew that I was regretting it. But she talked to me about how the symptoms were, as far as like when I got home. And so the symptoms kept going for at least an hour after I finally got myself home. I was probably about a half a mile from home when that happened. So I not only did an activity that she had not given me yet that is more advanced for my head and my eyes, but I also went too far away from home when I did it. So it was it was a mistake, and I like to learn things the hard way in my life. So now I know that it just reconfirmed that I need to stick to the plan. And then the aftermath of my stroke, I would say this really has to do with the psychiatrist currently. I'm dealing with a lot of emotions that they're turning around. I feel like I'm feeling a bit better than I did a couple weeks ago, but this is not the time to stop going just because I'm feeling a bit better. So I need to keep coming back. One of the things that also stands out to me as something that folks do, I did it, is stop taking their medication when the medication is working. And so when I was, let's see, when was that? Gosh, I mean, it was like 18 years ago, or 18, 17 years ago, something like that. I decided that I was gonna stop taking my anxiety medication. I decided that my life, the things that were wrong in my life, the problems that I had faced were fixed. I walked through them, all of it was done. So I thought, I don't have anything to trigger my anxiety, so I shouldn't need the medication anymore. I didn't go to the doctor and talk about it or anything. I just stopped taking it. I know. That's what they tell you not to do. 2 weeks later, I was in this position. I was sitting at my desk. I was working from home back then for a family business. And I could just feel like my nerves jumping under my skin, and like everything was so chaotic in my head. And I just finally, I swung my chair around. I was the only one home. I swung my chair around and I yelled, I can't take it anymore. Like I yelled it out loud. It was terrible. It was terrible. And so I try to share that experience with my kids and anybody I know who takes medication for depression and anxiety, because I mean, they say that don't just stop, but we do it. I think, not to call my son out, but he's done it. He's done it, and I can watch him sink. Like I can see it when he stops taking his medication. Um, and it's dangerous. For some people, it's super dangerous. For me, I think it was dangerous. I mean, I felt crazy. So, these times when we're feeling like maybe we're cured or everything's better is the critical time to keep going and keep to whatever it is that you're doing because it's working. So why do we walk away from these tools that are helping us? It's common across many areas of health and recovery where patients start to feel better. They start thinking they no longer need the support or the treatments that helped them improve. And this could be, like in my case, the medication that's treating their condition, regular appointments with a psychiatrist, attending support group meetings, like AA would be one. They say, like, when you're gonna relapse, you start on your path towards a relapse like a month before it actually happens. They say, like, stopping going to your support group meetings, stopping calling your sponsor, stopping working the steps. And so attendance at support group meetings really falls in that area. I can see stopping going to stroke recovery meetings. It really helps me. The past 2 months I hadn't been able to go because I kept missing the email notification, and I felt it. I felt like I was disconnected from my people. So it's important. It's important to have that connection remain intact. And of course, adherence to professionally structured recovery programs instead of just taking it upon ourselves to walk down the street, move our heads however we please, and feeling the repercussions of it. So I have a couple, 4, in fact, examples of why this happens, why we walk away from recovery tools. So one is a misinterpretation of recovery. Feeling better can be misconstrued as being cured. And it's easy that once the symptoms diminish or become manageable, that's where my problem is, when they become manageable, thinking that the underlying issue is resolved, which is rarely the case in recovery. What I do is, when I feel like things are starting to become manageable, I've done this for 3 years since my stroke. When I feel like I'm starting to be able to get back to normal, then I just dive back into normal, and I'm reminded in a terrible, terrible, painful way that I cannot go back to normal. This is normal. This is normal. And I have to keep telling myself that this is my normal. I don't like to say that phrase, your new normal. I mean, that is exactly what it is, but it takes away, for me, when I say this is my new normal, it accentuates the idea that it's new, that it's abnormal, that it's not the same as the old normal. So I just like to say that this is normal. Not my new normal, this is normal. What's happening is normal for me. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but it definitely helps me. I don't really like to say, welcome to your new normal. It's just like, it just doesn't work for me. So The next reason why people walk away from these tools is overconfidence. Same for me. So this improvement, or feeling that things are becoming manageable, will bring a surge of confidence. And it's natural to feel self-reliant, thinking that you can manage without the safety nets that supported you during tougher times. That's what I did yesterday when I got cocky on my walk with my dog, and thinking that I can go further away from home. I can be independent. I can be self-reliant. Well, I can, but I need to be careful. And there are baby steps that I need to take to continue to increase my ability to be self-reliant. If I just go from 0 to 10, which is literally what I did on my pain scale and my discomfort and vertigo-ish scale, I'm just gonna break myself. I'm gonna break myself again. And that's what I do. And when I break myself, meaning like I just can't function, then I can't do anything. So it's important that I just try to check myself and recognize when I'm getting into this area where I'm being overly confident in my abilities. Next is that feeling of burden that I was talking about. Ongoing treatments and meetings and therapy. As we start to feel like our symptoms are manageable, or in sobriety, like life is becoming manageable, then going to AA meetings and calling our sponsor and all of that just seems to be more of like restrictive, like they're rules that we just want to break. As we start to get a feeling of normalcy back into daily life, the commitment to these routines can feel like an unnecessary burden. And finally, the ongoing treatment or support can also come across as a constant reminder of your struggle with your health. So like, I've heard this a lot when going to sobriety meetings. There are folks that say, I don't think about alcohol unless I go to those meetings. I'm never thinking about alcohol unless I go to the meetings. I'm just going to stop going to the meetings. It's not working for me. I don't want to think about alcohol anymore. And when we drop those support systems and distance ourselves away from that network, then we're opening ourselves up to have that old past identity, that old past issue surface again. So there is a happy medium, I believe, to fitting, recovery right now for me is my life, full-time recovery. And what I have done over the past 10 months is start trying to fit my life into recovery. And I learned this in sobriety. I am not supposed to fit AA into my life. I'm supposed to fit my life around AA. And this is the same thing that that has been happening with my stroke recovery and my vestibular therapy. I have found myself straying from stroke support groups and the vestibular support groups until last week. Then I realized that I need to fit my life around these things, not fit them into my life. And yeah, I would love to have a life that's back to the way that it was, but it's never gonna be. My reality is the here and now. And this is the way that I have to live. I get to live. So there are dangers in walking away, and I'm well aware of this from sobriety, and I'm constantly reminded in sobriety. Every time we end a meeting, we say, keep coming back. Anytime anybody celebrates an anniversary, we say, keep coming back. Leaving behind the support systems prematurely, or in the case of sobriety, leaving support systems ever, can have several negative consequences. So, relapsing, of course, whether returning to drinking, experiencing a resurgence of mental health symptoms, like the depression that was growing in me a couple months ago, or worsening physical health, my symptoms, my head pain. If I stray away from this customized program that I'm on, my head will slowly start hurting more again. So this risk is real, and as in, gosh, in both situations. So in sobriety, I know that if I were to pick up a drink, number one, I would die. For me, to drink is to die. I know that for a fact. I also know that if I were to pick up a drink, my alcoholism will not be in the same stage it was when I quit drinking. It will have advanced with time. So even though I wasn't drinking for the past 8 years, if I pick up a drink today, my alcoholism is going to pick up at today's. So it has grown in severity for 8 years, even though I haven't been drinking. And in the same way, my head symptoms post-stroke, they have not gotten better. They have gotten worse. When I abandoned my professional help the first year, I just walked away and started working again. And 2 years later, I declined to the point that was far past what I ever was right after my stroke. Another risk for walking away from our recovery tools is that loss of a support network. Support groups and therapy provide more than just guidance, it's a community, it's connections, and losing those connections can lead to isolation. And I just talked about isolation yesterday, I think. And that loss can lead really down a very negative mental health path, for me, for sure. So for me, these support networks provide an essential emotional support through challenging times, and just how I talked about seasons this week, and it's important that when we're a in the spring and the summer, that we still work at recovery, that we still nurture our connections, because it's inevitable that a new season will come. And we need to make sure that we have that habit of picking up the phone and of leaning into this customized program that we have for recovery. Another risk is underestimating ongoing needs in recovery. So, recovery from alcoholism, stroke, dealing with vestibular disorders, it all requires ongoing adjustments, ongoing strategy. And abandoning the process prematurely can mean missing out on necessary steps towards the future should there be complications. Like, I will likely always need to accommodate for my disability. I will always need to adhere to my professionally laid out recovery program in order to live without pain. And it is time that I stop underestimating the severity of my condition and underestimating the length of time that I'm going to be dealing with what I'm dealing with. I think it's understandable, of course, because I haven't known. I haven't known how long, because nobody knew what was wrong with me. And I think as I'm really starting to get into therapy and seeing my reaction to the things that she's asking me to do, I'm understanding that a bit more, what my ongoing needs look like. I'm always going to require some sort of special attention to my movement, my environment, how much I exert myself. If I abandon this commitment of being gentle with myself, then I risk regression into greater pain and visual discomfort. And that impairment, it just comes back like that. The sensation in my eye, like behind my eyes, and the effect that is so hard for me to explain, happens in an instant. I can just strain my eyes, meaning look in a direction just too far, like stretch the muscles in my eyes too much, and I will have an immediate sharp pain in my head. So I really need to, it's acceptance, it's quite a bit of acceptance in order to not underestimate that need for investing in a lifetime of recovery, really. So how can we maintain that commitment? Regular evaluation, regularly consulting with our healthcare providers to assess the necessity of ongoing treatment, an adjustment can be made without fully abandoning the support structures. For example, I'm going to be lowering the number of times I see my vestibular therapist in a couple weeks. So I'll start going once a week instead of twice a week. She said, I don't know when that's going to happen, but that would be a good example of adjusting without fully abandoning. And for me, it seems like my healthcare provider appointments have normalized to about every month. I'm seeing someone once a month, some specialist or primary care check-in. And this is good for me. I mean, it has to be good for me because that's as soon as I can get into these people's offices. But it's good enough that it allows me to see that the momentum is continuing. And as long as I can see that, I feel that I'm being cared for. And I feel that there's always something to look forward to as far as progress and recovery. Another strategy to remain committed is setting long-term goals. I talked about goals yesterday. Goals are so important to for me to keep my emotional and my mental health in check. There are certain, long-term goals and short-term goals serve their purpose for different situations. So in this case, I'm talking about long-term goals, looking beyond your immediate recovery, looking beyond how you feel on a daily basis, looking beyond, well, I've been feeling good the past couple of weeks. That's still a very short period of time. Setting long-term health and wellness goals that incorporate maintenance strategies as a part of a healthy lifestyle. In sobriety, it's important to live in today. This is important in stroke and vestibular rehabilitation as well. However, it fills a sense of purpose for me to have at least 2 goals per month based on my hobbies and things I enjoy. This is what I've been working with my psychiatrist on. And my 2 goals for this month are to finish a quilt I'm working on and to sew my summer romper that I'm sewing. So this is still not a total long-term goal, but it's stretching it out a little more. It's making me look beyond just this week. And I need that. I need to plan ahead a little bit and recognize that, okay, for this whole month, not much is going to change this whole month. So you're going to have to keep reining it in. It just allows me to just see that length of time a little better and be realistic about what I'm doing today, what I'm doing tomorrow, and what I'm doing long term. Education is important. Understanding the chronic or long-term nature of your condition can reinforce the importance of ongoing management. It was important for me to hear that vestibular disorders do not go away. It was important for me to hear that they're lifelong. There are people in stroke recovery who, and vestibular patients that are, I refuse to accept that I'm going to feel this way for the rest of my life. I'm going to work at it. And that's great and it's commendable. But I still have to understand that this is a fight that I will be fighting my whole life. If in fact I want to, how hard do I want to fight? How much how hard do I have to fight to go to improve how much? You know what I mean? Like, um, how much pain do I endure in order to progress? So, and it's something I don't know the answer to. I'm just going to have to figure that out. If I'm not learning by asking folks in my support groups, I quite often will ask ChatGPT. It's difficult for me to browse the internet, so I find that ChatGPT certainly came around at the right time for me. It allows me to have him search. Chatty McChatterton is what I call him. Have him search the internet and just give me the answer. Of course, I read it with a grain of salt. I know that some of it's not going to be accurate, but it saves my head a lot and allows me to do research and learn. Community engagement, staying engaged with support communities, I think really goes a long way. Not only being there to receive what there is to receive, but also contribute, because there's always a newcomer. There's always somebody who's just beginning the journey, and that person needs people like us to stay engaged even when life starts becoming normalized. This type of community enhances a sense of purpose and commitment to recovery. For me, I've been saying that a lot today. For me, it also gives me a sense of being a part of something bigger than myself. We say that all the time in recovery and sobriety. Having a home group, having not only any old support group, but having a place that you call home where you build relationships with those people who come to that particular support group. That is being a part of something bigger than yourself. And it gets me out of my own way. It helps me be of service to others. It allows me to reflect on my own growth in recovery as I do see newcomers come in. So, recovery, whether from alcoholism, medical conditions, or mental health issues, is a marathon, not a sprint. The tools that assist in recovery are part of a continuous process of healing and growth. It's important for me to stay the course even when it feels like I crossed the finish line, or I'm getting ready to cross the finish line, and I just want to like cut all the attachments and glide through the finish line. Well, I might trip before I cross the line if I decide I want to do it on my own. So I need to stay the course to ensure that I have a lasting recovery. Every tool in our recovery is a means to a healthier life, and abandoning them prematurely, and in some cases, ever, because it's a lifelong recovery, is really like removing the foundation of a building before it's fully constructed. So, if you find that this podcast is one of your tools, keep coming back. I know that it can seem like, I've been doing this for a while and I'm kind of done. But if it's giving you some sort of comfort, maybe what you should switch up is what you're doing when you listen. Go for a walk instead. Do something else that is encouraging your recovery while you listen. There are ways to mix things up, use our tools in different ways without abandoning them. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.